Okay, everybody. Today I am happy to welcome Alex Crowther to Autoimmune Rehab. And we are going to be talking about a topic that we've talked about it before, but you probably can't talk about it enough. And that's the topic of chronic pain and how that relates to autoimmune. So, Alex, welcome to Autoimmune Rehab. And start off by telling us in a short, 30 to 60 seconds, who are you and what brings you on to Autoimmune Rehab today?
All right. Well, good morning, Anna Lori. So who am I? Who am I? What brings me here? So I'm Alex Crowther. I'm here in Michigan. I got a funny accent. I'm originally from the UK and found myself in Michigan actually working for the auto manufacturers in advertising. And but I got diagnosed with a chronic pain condition actually quite recently, within the last couple of years, but I've been sick for about 10, 12 years. Well, that's me.
Wow, yeah, that's and unfortunately that's the story of a lot of people have with their autoimmune. They're sick forever before they finally get a diagnosis. And I think there's a lot of technology and things that are coming out that are going to help us get those diagnoses quicker. But the reality is a lot of us sit around, bounce around from doctor to doctor to doctor. So tell us a little bit about what that was like, because I'm assuming that you went and saw other doctors and things like that. It took you a while to finally figure out what was going on.
Oh yeah, this is a trigger warning because this is going to resonate with a lot of people. So I was involved in a car accident, which I believe was the starting point of my illness. So that was back in 2012. It was on my birthday actually. Someone came off the highway onto this sort of road that I was on, directly off the highway onto this road, and side-on hit me at about 50 miles an hour. I was going through a green traffic light and I got walloped pretty hard. And I was in a big old Jeep, fortunately. Thank God it saved my life. And because the car was a little bit lifted up, the hood of the other car went under the side of my car, flipped me in the air, rolled a few times, da-da-da-da-da. I ended up hitting a utility pole. And I was upside down. The EMS were called to what was believed to be a fatality because I was laying upside down in my car, basically unconscious, not moving. And so the onlookers didn't want to touch me. And they literally thought I was dead. So anyway, EMS get there. I'm not dead. And they managed to, I wake up actually as they're getting into the car to me. I come out. I'm sitting on the grass, eventually sort of like stunned, dazed, and confused and trying to figure out what's going on. And really the first sign of any injury was both of my thumbs were dislocated and out of their sort of sockets, looking a little bit odd. My hands looked pretty strange. But apart from that, I mean, I was sort of like, I don't know, very dazed and confused, but otherwise in sort of like one piece. End up at the hospital. Obviously, there's something wrong with my hands. They give me some knockout drops, put my thumbs back in their sockets, but later that night, I'm actually home, and it turns out that we do some imaging. I'm gonna need surgery on my hands. So that was sort of like the very beginning. Then what happens is I end up having to have the thumb joints rebuilt on both of my hands. But given that it was both my hands, I'm right-handed, we're like, let's do my left first. We'll see how that goes. We do surgery on my left hand, which really should have been very routine. All that happened was my thumb joint had collapsed. So there's a very standard arthroplasty where they basically remake the joint, and that happens. It's not a big deal. My hand get wrapped up in a cast, and it just doesn't really heal. It just takes forever, and I keep going back to the doctor. The cast is too tight. They redo that. I end up with an infection, doesn't really get better, yada, yada, yada. I feel like I'm back at the doctor sort of every week or two. About 4 or 5 months into that process, the hand surgeon's like, I don't know what's going on. When I do the imaging, everything is as it should be. I don't know why you've got this pain. It doesn't make sense. And he eventually refers me to another hand surgeon for a second opinion. And I go and see this other hand surgeon, and same story. We don't know what's wrong. You shouldn't have this pain. It makes no sense. And that sort of story continues for a while. I sort of like keep trying things, and I don't know, like nothing sort of improves, to the point then where I remember waking up one morning, and my left hand, my left hand was the one that was hurting at the time, and my right hand is now sore. And I'm like, well, this is not good. Like, I've now got this terrible pain from one hand that's now sort of bilateral. It's now both sides of my body. Go back, repeat the process. We don't know. Another 2 years rolls on, or 18 months or thereabouts, and then it's my left shoulder. I wake up. My left shoulder is really, really painful. And not only is it painful, it's like a progressive pain that gets worse. And I'm not talking about pain that's like, a dull sort of like ache. I'm talking about like real tissue damage, injury pain, which is now from my left hand to both my right hand to now my left shoulder. And again, another 18 months rolls on, where I'm struggling, seeing doctors, asking questions, doing, blood tests. Maybe it's arthritis, maybe it's some other disorder. And sure enough, then it's my right shoulder. Everything seems to start on one side, mirrors to the opposite part of my body, and then it moves. And without me going into the great big long story, because I'm already dragging on a bit, from one part to the next part to the next part, but that is basically the story. And I'm bouncing from one sort of modality to the next, chasing, I'm sort of like chasing solutions, like I'm sure many people here do, right? I'm just chasing solutions, and it's miserable because my pain is real. This thing hurts, and I'm constantly being told there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with you. And that hurts in a way that only someone that has experienced it knows. It hurts on such a profound level, because you're not crazy, but eventually you start questioning yourself, don't you?
Yeah.
We all start questioning ourselves.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
Yeah,
And at
that's
this
where
point in time, you probably didn't really know that much about autoimmune conditions, so it didn't even occur to you to think, oh, well, maybe I need to go see somebody that knows something about autoimmune conditions. Because I know a lot of us don't think about it till we're in the middle of it, but now it's like, whether it's myself or anybody else that I know, as soon as I hear about somebody talking about mystery pain or mystery symptoms that they can't figure out what they are, I'm immediately like, autoimmune,
Yeah.
That isn't what we're thinking.
Yeah, exactly that. So look, I mean, the thing that's really was kind of interesting to me now that now that my story has progressed quite a long way, and obviously we'll get into where I am and what I'm doing a little bit later, but what was interesting is I was brought up, as we all are, in the system of life, that when we're unwell, we go to our primary care doctor and we listen to the doctor, and the doctor directs you, and you do what you're told. And I was doing what I was told, and I was doing a little bit of my own research, but I was sort of following all the direction I was being given. And I was getting pretty depressed at the time. The other thing is I had an executive job. During this period, I was working in advertising, running a very, very big bit of business. I had almost 1,000 people working in my business, and reporting up to me. I mean, it was not like a little thing. Now, I can't turn up to work like a miserable SOB. I have to be on my game. I'm dealing with, again, executive clients and employees and peers and this, that, and the other, and I'm traveling all over the world. And, I've now got this debilitating pain condition. And what I'm having to do is grin and bear it. I'm grinning and bearing it and pretending I'm faking it all day long. And I'm probably doing a pretty crappy job of it, to be honest. And so I'm doing that. And what was happening is I'd then come home at the end of the day. And, my routine was put my car in the garage, go into the bathroom, change my clothes, maybe take a shower, go and sit down before having something to eat. And I would fall asleep. Like within moments, I would just sort of like not fall asleep, gently. I would effectively pass out through exhaustion. And it was not like a relaxing falling asleep. It was like very uncomfortable, sort of jolting, falling asleep and then waking up. And it started to occur to me like this ain't right. Like that wasn't good. And then the weekends would roll around, and all I wanted to do was hide and stay in my room and go to sleep and just feel warm and comfortable. And that rolls on for a while, and I'm just not living. I'm not living a life. I'm just having a really miserable time of life. And yeah, I mean, it was a really miserable time for me, Anna Laura.
Oh yeah, I absolutely believe it. So what happened next then? How did you finally figure out or get that light bulb to go, okay, something's really going on here and I got to figure out what's going on?
Okay, well, this is where the story sort of takes a turn. So, um, I'm in a room and there's a chair. There's a chair behind me. I know that folks that are just listening won't be able to see, but there's an armchair behind me, and I have my camera set up like this because, when I'm on camera and I'm talking to people in meetings and whatever, I can always see the background. And that was the chair that I sat in unwell, a lot. I spent a lot of hours falling asleep and trying to stay warm and sleeping at night in that chair because laying down was very uncomfortable. And I still don't sleep very well, if I'm really honest. So I do spend a lot of time in that chair. But I was in that chair and I'm like, I'm not living. And I'm miserable. I'm desperately unhappy. And I was ready to call it good. That is the point. I was ready to be done, Anna Laura. I'm sure that maybe is surprising to some degree. You look at me now, and I'm like, I'm thriving. I'm having a good life, and life is good. But I was at a very, very low place, and I just wanted to be done because I was working too hard, and everything that I had worked for and everything I was doing was for nothing. I had no life at this point. I wasn't ever going and doing anything. Any hobby that I ever had, anything that I enjoyed was no longer a thing. I was living for nothing. I was just taking up space so far as I was concerned. But I didn't want to leave my partner, my wife, in this distressing place. I wanted to leave this earthly plane in the most gentle way that I could. And so I decided that I would look for, it was overnight, the middle of the night, I was thinking these things through, and I'm like, I'm going to look for someone that understands pain, a counselor of some sort that I can talk to about pain, who can help me figure some of this out, because I wasn't in a fit state to like figure some of this stuff out on my own. And so I thought, like, if I can find someone that understands pain enough, they'll understand the situation I'm in, and maybe they'll help me, like, get my things in order and help me figure out where I can go and whatever. And look, there's a lot of thinking in that maybe wasn't very rational, but I was not in a rational place.
Mhm.
I had opportunity for all sorts of medications by me that I could have done things that, and it wasn't just like suicidal ideation. This was like, I just want to be done. Like this just makes no sense for me anymore. I'm miserable. I'm in pain 24 hours a day. And I'm being told by my care team that this will only get worse. You will not get better. my diagnosis was complex regional pain syndrome, and also hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
Okay. Yeah.
Neither of which there's any real thing that I'm being told that I could do about it, and what have you. So anyway, I get up in the morning, I sit at my computer, and I type in. I'm pretty sure the words were pain counselor or something like that. I'm doing a quick Google search, pain counselor, and sure enough, I don't know where, it was like halfway down my screen, I saw this word, pain coach. It's sort of like, on this big screen, it's just like these two words sort of jumped out. They leapt out on the page at me, and I'd never heard. So I'm reading this word, pain coach, and I'm like, pain coach? What's that? I've been sick for 12 years. I've never heard of a pain coach. Well, 10 years at that time, I guess. I've never heard of this thing, pain coach, and I've been to all these doctors, and no one's ever mentioned this thing, pain coach. What's this? Click on it. I read, and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. Pain coach, someone that can just guide me through. I'm like, that's what I need. I need someone to guide me through my pain process. I click on it, and I'm gonna leave a telephone message. This is like 6:45 in the morning, and I'm like ready to just leave a message, hey, give me a call back. And it just so happens that the woman that owned the business picked up the phone on the second ring. Well, I wasn't expecting that at all at 6:45 in the morning. She just happened to be working, and that was the time of day that she cleared the decks before she got into her job. And I'm like, explain my little backstory. And so very quickly, she explained to me, what pain coaching is and what it was and how it can help me and all that kind of stuff. And she basically explained that pain coaching is a non-judgmental partnership that focuses on strengths and solutions, not on my pain and not on my weakness, but really is this sort of supporting modality for people with chronic pain, where they work through skills and pain neuroscience, and there's a lot of trust and a lot of rapport and confidentiality, and they just sort of like walk through, what's like, they're your guide through pain, and they help you explain what's going on with pain. And it was, anyway, like, she makes an appointment for my coach, and I speak to my coach later that same day, this lady, Jareen, who's a superstar, rock star, and probably saved my life. I'm talking to Jareen, and on my very first appointment, which lasted about an hour, she asked me a question, which was, can you just tell me the story of what's happened? And so I did. And that took about 59 minutes of the 1 hour. And it occurred to me when I put that phone down that it was I see you nodding because you get what's going on. It was the very first time that someone had listened to me. No one, I get goosebumps every time I say that, because it was the first damn time that anyone had taken the time to listen to my story about what the F was going on.
Mm-hmm.
No one had taken the time to listen to me and hear what had happened and where I was on my journey, what all my symptoms were, how it made me feel as a whole human being. And so I was able to explain to her. She was literally at that point the only person other than my partner, who doesn't have any medical background, of course, who knew what was going on. So that was appointment one. Appointment two, which was, I think, literally the very next day, we agreed that we would do a very condensed series of appointments because, like I said, I was ready to be done with this life. And we needed to get out of that place quickly. The second appointment was, very quickly, she said to me, do you understand pain? And I'm like, yeah, of course I understand pain. Well, we all think we understand pain. But she's like, no. Do you really know what pain is? Do you understand what's going on with pain? And I'm like, I think so. It's like, do you understand the mechanics of what's going on with pain in the brain? And so she explains what's going on. She explains how, pain is ultimately a learned experience, and that things like memory and trauma and all sorts of other things come into the pain experience. And she explained how, when you put your hand on a hot stove, it's really just a signal. It's a little signal from your finger to your brain initially, and it's your brain that says, should I send a pain signal now, or am I going to send a tickle? And so she starts to break things down and explain how the brain does this determination of whether or not it should send a little wave of pain, or if it should send a tickle, or if it should send a whatever. And so she started to break it down, and then she started to explain things like, the more the pain, the more the brain experiences pain, those those connections get stronger, and the more you do it, the easier it becomes for your brain to produce those signals. It becomes hardwired, if you like. Those connections become stronger. Just like if you become a ballet dancer, or a pianist, or a mathematician, or a bicycle rider, or no matter what you do, you become a professional at something, because those neuropathic, the paths in your brain become stronger and stronger and stronger. And so I start to understand for the first time what's going on. And just like it was just the basic, Laura, just the basics of understanding what was going on. And I started to recognize that, one, I wasn't crazy. One, I wasn't imagining things, that I wasn't going to die from this, that this wasn't going to kill me, because, I didn't know. All I knew is this was getting, that the more I was experiencing this, the worse it was getting. And anyway, over time, we do more and more things. And probably over the course of 6 months that I'm working with Jareen, I start to recognize that incrementally and slowly, through one, just learning stuff, but two, by practicing certain things that I'm being taught, I'm able to bring my pain sensation down. So over this period of time, I learned to meditate, and it took me a long time, and it's hard. Yeah, meditation takes a minute, but after about 40 days of trying, I figured it out. I learned to talk kindly to myself. I learned that, things like, I tell myself, I tell my brain that we're safe, as an example. I learned just a plethora. I have a big toolbox of things now that I know that I can do to soften the pain experience. And what's weird is none of them on their own are rocket science. Nothing is that like zip bang wow kind of like revolutionary. But when you start putting these different things together, when I ground myself, I mean, there's all sorts of things that I can do, that help me basically calm my nervous system down. And the difference between me having a completely activated central nervous system and a slightly calmer one is the difference between me being stuck in a chair wanting to kill myself and being able to be out in the world. The reality is I still live with chronic pain. I still have pain. But through a lot of things that I can do, just by sitting down and writing about chronic pain, I wrote an op-ed yesterday, and just by writing about complicated pain, I was able to bring my sensation of pain down a few points, by understanding complicated pain. My brain signals seem to settle down, and so that's where I am. I've just learned a lot about pain, and it's I don't know, it's not rocket science. It's about telling myself I need to calm down.
That's good. That's important. Yeah, because you're not definitely not the first person I've talked to about this, and I think a lot of people don't realize that the role that the nervous system and getting somewhat out of that fight or flight mode, if you will, that a lot of us get into with the nervous system is the nervous system is connected to everything: pain, autoimmune conditions, all kinds of things, and it's not something that a lot of us realize, and it's not something that I think even a lot of doctors focus on either. They just a lot of times don't know what they don't know, and it's how it is. So tell us a little bit about the book that you've written. So I know he's written a book that has come out pretty recently, and we will make sure that we include the link to his website so that people can go find information about the book. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So look, I mean, again, it may seem like super trivial. Like, pain coaching is such a remarkable modality because I look, everything that we can do from a medical point of view is great and fantastic and what have you. But once we can calm the nervous system down, everything else becomes a little bit easier. Doctors are able to see, once the nervous system is calm, doctors are able to see kind of like closer to the root cause of what's going on. So what I decided I would do is write the book that I couldn't find when I was sort of really first experiencing pain. And I remember looking, trying to understand what pain was and to figure out like what I could do. So the book is called Reframing Pain, Understanding Pain in Everyday Terms. Because what I had found is I was finding one of two things. I was either finding books that were so basic that they were written like a 5-year-old could read them, and they really weren't explaining anything, or they were written in a language that was so deeply complicated that maybe somebody with a medical background would deeply understand. But so I wrote this book that really a 13-year-old or somebody who is in a chronic pain flare would be able to read. So it's very explicitly and deliberately written so that it's accessible. So I don't use any crazy difficult language, and if I'm using big scientific words, there's a glossary at the back that explains what is neuroplasticity and words like that. But so that it's broken into about 3 pieces. The first part of the book explains what's going on in the brain. So how is pain, like, what is pain? So we explain at the first third what pain is. And there are many studies that demonstrate that when somebody that's living with chronic pain understands what is going on in the brain, PNE, Pain Neuroscience Education, when somebody understands that at a basic level, pain can reduce 1 to 2 points. And so something just as simple as that can make a very, very big difference. And then you're able, as a person, as a whole person, you're able to remind yourself that I know what's going on and it's okay and we're safe. The second third of the book are sort of tools and strategies, if you like, things that you can do to calm your nervous system. And I include things like a trigger response plan. So I had a flare actually that started on Sunday. And the thing about being in a flare is all you can, like, it is so all consuming. And again, anybody that gets big old pain flares will know this, that they can become so consuming that you can't think straight. And so I have it written in a way that we can design a little trigger, a trigger response plan that you can stick inside your kitchen cabinet, or you can have a copy on your phone that says, all you need to remember at that point is to go and find this plan. The 2 or 3 things that can calm, that work for you, that calm the system. For me, it's something like 4-2-6 breathing. While I close my eyes in a chair, and I will think of, I've got one place that I always try and take myself to. And while I'm doing this and breathing, while I'm looking at this place in my mind's eye, I am also practicing. I think one of the things I try and teach is, I try and teach that if we can think of our pain brain as a separate entity, as a separate person almost, that doesn't have, that isn't logical, because I instinctively, I know that I'm in a nice warm room. I know that I'm safe. I know that I'm not about to be attacked by a saber-toothed tiger. I know that, I'm fed and nourished. I know that I'm safe. But my pain brain does not know that I'm safe. It just doesn't know. So what I do is I think of it like it's not in my head anymore, that it's a person standing next to me, and I will say things, Anna Laura, like, and I'll touch my hand maybe, and I'll say, we're safe, and we're warm, and we know what's going on, and we know that you're trying to protect me, but you don't need to anymore. And this sounds crazy. This does sound silly, but it works. And so I give it to anybody that will. You'll find the words that work for yourself. But if you can imagine that pain brain that exists is a separate thing, and you can talk to it like you're trying to calm your child down. If you talk to your pain brain with the love and the care and the tenderness and the reassurance that it's okay, it will do incredible things. So when I'm in a flare, I know that warmth helps me. I know that imagining this one place that I can take myself to in my brain. I know that a little bit of breathing. I have my things. I have my 4 or 5 things that I know that I can do that will help me. So that part of the book has a good load of strategies and tools. And then the last third of the book talks about the modality of pain coaching. So, what is it? How does it work? What does a session look like? Et cetera, and where you can find a coach. And then the very last part of that is we talk about the career of becoming a coach, because what's really interesting, what I found on my journey was so many of us that live with complicated pain, we lose a lot. My career, I wasn't in the position really to do it. But I didn't actually want to anymore. But a lot of folks who live with complicated pain, that's not going to necessarily go away, but that we can manage, need to be able to do things during the course of their day. And so being able to work from home like I do now and like you do, allows me to do things that help me calm my nervous system and help me to feel a little bit better. And so pain coaching is a very accessible career to those that live with complicated pain. And I'll tell you why. One, we don't have to hide it. We can own our pain and we can talk about it. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, when I'm sitting and I'm talking to someone about complicated pain and strategies, and we're doing breathing exercises or any number of other strategies, not only is it helping the person on the other end of the video, it's helping myself. I'm calming my own central nervous system. When I'm talking about pain in the brain and how it works, I'm reminding myself. And so this becomes a career, pain changes you. We know that pain fundamentally changes you. I am a infinitely more kind person than I ever was. I have empathy that I didn't have. And so when you've had and lived with complicated pain, it changes you. And the best coaches that you'll find are people that have lived with complicated pain. And therefore, what we've done is we've designed this program where we train, so Pain Coach Academy that I'm running today trains people to become pain coaches and to work with. So the book, we go from what is it to how can you manage it, to here is a modality that is worth trying. And I think what's really cool about it is it is enough to take you from a state of being in a very difficult place to a state where you're able to get up and be in the world. And then whatever else you can do with your pain through other modalities, that's all a bonus. And so, that's what the book's all about. It's it's a lot of teaching and a lot of strategy, and I've got little workbooks in there, and it's just a little helpful book, and I give it away. It's free. I'm not trying to make a bean on it. I really just want people to have good things that help them. That's my mission in life, is helping people. I just don't
Awesome.
want anybody else
Cool.
suffering.
That's great. That's amazing. That's an amazing resource. So tell us what your website is, where we'll be able to find it, and we'll make sure we link it below as well so people can go check it out.
Yeah, so it's very simple. paincoachacademy.com. So paincoachacademy.com. And you
Cool.
can find me at Alex at Pain Coach Academy. And the book is called Reframing Pain. And it's like I say, if you haven't tried it, give it a try. We have on the website, we've got the resources to find a coach. You've got the book, and you can also learn about the path to becoming a pain coach as well. So it's very rewarding. It's like, what gets me, Anna Laura, is to be able to work with someone who really is deeply struggling. And we all know whether it's ourselves or someone else that's really having a struggle, to be able to take that person and to walk alongside them and to fundamentally change their life for the better. I mean, it's an incredible honor and a privilege to be able to do that. And I'm not saying that pain coaching it's not a cure. It's not a cure, but it is enough. It was enough for me to change my life enough to be able to get up and to get out into the world. I was given the tools and the strategies that made the difference to be able to be out in the world. And there's huge hope in that.
Oh, absolutely. There's absolutely hope in it. That's amazing. Okay, so I think we've been talking probably almost long enough now. So let's have you answer the last question that I always like to ask people. And that is, if you could go back in time, let's say to the day of your accident, and tell yourself something that you know now that you wish you'd known then, what would you say to yourself?
I was in massive fear. I was very, very afraid, Anna Laura. I was terrified of what was ahead for me. And I was scared. I was scared of not having a diagnosis. I was terrified when I had my diagnosis. A life of sort of incurable pain. I mean, what are you going to do with that? However, it was the greatest gift I ever received, honestly, because it has changed me. I'm a better person than I was. I have tools to manage my pain. I get to meet people, like every single day. I meet amazing people that weren't in my sphere. I've become a Reiki master. I became an initiated shaman. I mean, I have done things. I've done some crazy things that I never would have expected to do. I meditate for 90 to 120 minutes a day that I never would have done. I'm just a different person, and I love who I am, and I love what I get to do every day, and I love helping people. I love the work my work does not feel like work. It was a gift. That's what I wish I knew.
That's awesome. That's great. I love that. And I think that's a great way to end. So yeah, like again, we'll say it's paincoachacademy.com. We will link that below. Everybody go grab the book, especially since it's free, go through it, read it, reach out to Alex if you want to chat with him even more. And thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you very much, Anna Laura.